So, Rob, I've been wondering about LinkedIn and YouTube and email lists and my business, and I think I'm not the only one.
No, I think you're right. It's LinkedIn in particular has been an adventure over the last few months for many of us. And I know we've talked about this. We've noticed kind of a decline in the engagement and in the views and in the profile views that typically result from that, from our efforts there. And we're kind of scratching our heads a little bit and wondering what's happening, right? Because we tend to want to chase the algorithm a little bit. That's kind of the
Mm.
knee-jerk reaction. But I feel like it shouldn't be that complicated. Um,
Yeah.
we end up we end up putting a lot of effort into things and not getting the return on investment that we expect. But I don't know. You've seen that, I'm sure.
Well, I have. It's hard to know. I mean, this time of the year as well, because we're recording this early in January, middle of January, and second week. And so we would expect that, especially in certain countries, and especially in some of the Western countries, we would expect the whole Christmas period and New Year and so on to be a lag. After Thanksgiving in the US, for example, we would expect that people are just going to be perhaps less active. How much of that is just me? Is it, have I changed my content? What should I be doing? You mentioned profile views. Oh, well, Anthony, maybe you better fix your profile headline. It's not very engaging or intriguing. And, are you actually engaging with people in the comments? And, have you changed your strategy? A whole lot of those things are you responding within the first hour of posting? So there's a whole lot of things that we're kind of speculating about.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And so I really thought about those things over the holiday break, and wondered how could I come back in 2019 with a different strategy that might give me that return on investment that I'm looking for. And I had been, I'm not sure about you. I know you've been in other platforms and active elsewhere, but I've been quite focused on LinkedIn. And although I've had accounts on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter,
Yeah,
other places, I really hadn't put a lot of effort into those other places simply
sure,
because of time, right?
sure.
It takes time to be in all of those places at once and be engaging in all of the different platforms. Um,
So yeah, so one thing um, that I have been thinking about a lot is, rather than this particular platform and what's the secret and how do we chase the algorithm, how do we beat it, and how do we keep up with it, uh, is to step back a little bit and to say, well, look, what is the end game here? You've just mentioned return on investment, and particularly you're talking about return on investment of your time.
yeah.
Okay. And so, what? So here's the question that I would be asking, which is, what's the end game here? Like, let's say that you had so many thousand followers, or on YouTube. I mean, I've been more active on YouTube lately, and I've noticed there are a lot of videos that keep coming up. How to get your first 100 followers, and then how to get your first 1,000, and how to get your first 100,000. And I am wondering, well, okay, let's say that I have my 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or million or 2 billion followers. So what? What is the so what about? Um, hmm.
Yeah, and it's a good question. And interestingly, I saw, and I can't remember who said it, but earlier today I saw somebody mention in their feed that you don't earn business from your network, you earn it through your network. And that's kind of been and it's these are networking tools, right? So it really is, to me, I've always looked at social media platforms as sort of networking on steroids, because you can have the reach in a much more efficient way than if you're at a networking event, let's say. Um, at an event, you might meet 100 people. On social media, you can meet 1,000 people, or deliver your message to 1,000 people in a very short period of time.
Hmm.
So you get that leverage. And I think at the end goal for somebody who's trying to run a business, at least from my perspective on LinkedIn or other platforms, really is, where's the conversion, right? So through the network that I've developed, are other people who might be my ideal customer or client going to hear about me? Or are they going to see my post? Are they going to see my video? Are they going to then view my profile and learn about the services I offer? And are they eventually going to contact me? And so, and what does that funnel sort of look like? It's really an inbound marketing tool from the business perspective, right? Delivering that engaging content.
So in terms of LinkedIn specifically, I think there is there are some certain features that really lend itself to the one-on-one engagement in a way that perhaps doesn't happen so much on other platforms, on some other platforms anyway. And so that can be a very big trust builder. But it's a really interesting point that you make, because I know that you and I have probably both met many people who we're delighted to know, and they're never going to be our clients. They are, well, maybe we can collaborate, maybe we can create content together, just as you and I are doing right now.
Absolutely.
And just, building the whole personal relationships, I suppose. And so perhaps it's maybe even almost what you might call a mental shift. I mean, we all know you can't just connect on LinkedIn and then pitch your services. Okay, we all know that. Well, we both know it, and hopefully a few others know it. Well, we've beaten that drum for long enough, but the whole idea here is, first, it's going to be a longer term strategy. But even though you do the long term strategy, there are still many people that I'm meeting who say, but it's not working. And so I then go back to them and say, well, what does success mean? What do you mean by it's not working? And so I suppose what I'm really, the line that I'm taking here is can you focus less on the tool or the channel, and focus more on, well, what does working mean? What does that actually look like to you? Because it's a simple example. Let's say that you're using Facebook ads to attract your clients. You may not be doing that, but let's say that you are. Mm-hmm. And if you got exactly the same clients, if they were all local clients, they were all in your local street anyway, like, you may be more effective by doing a door knock to them, or wearing a sandwich board. The channel is not so important. It's not, I prefer this channel to that one. It's how are we going to work out whether this is a worthwhile investment especially of our time.
Yeah. And I guess that's part of the key is that's the message, right? And the social media platform or the blog post or the podcast appearance or whatever it is you're using, those are the communication vehicles. Yeah. But the message needs to be, what is the value to my ideal client? And so that's the piece that I guess that has to be clear, and it has to be targeted. And I guess that's one of the beauty of Facebook ads is, it's one of the few opportunities to really target your message to a particular audience, to try to find out, to try to really zero in on your particular potential market. I've played with it a little bit. I've had a few dollars tick away on Facebook ads, but I haven't played with it long enough to see a lot of success. I don't know if you've experimented or not.
No, not in any serious way. And so I suppose we might be asking, because you just, what is success? What is success for you as a business owner? How do you, and how would you assess that? How do you measure even your job satisfaction and that I'm not going back to go and work for corporate? Why not?
Yeah.
How do you measure all of that?
Well, at the end of the day, it does come down to, are you making any money? Of course. Uh,
Yep.
and so, if you're not making any money, what are you doing wrong? How far, where do you look to kind of fix the problem? Um, and we talk about the sales funnel models all the time, right? So where does it start? And where does that conversion happen? How are you attracting your target market, and where do they actually turn from, okay, I'm interested, to, okay, I'm buying? And those are the things that I think I've spent the last year really experimenting with, and I've picked up on a few clues, but I haven't quite nailed it exactly. So I need to continue and figure out, exactly what's going to be the right formula to make that happen.
Okay. Yeah. It's I mean, I see a lot of people struggling in all kinds of contexts. Many people have perhaps gone into running their own business not by choice. Okay, is that
Yeah.
they have contracts which I think they're called 0-day contracts. I think is that what they're called?
Uh,
It's anyway. The idea is
yeah.
that people sign a contract, and it means, and you've got no notice. Like they can just call you tomorrow and say we like there's no guarantee 1 month or something notice. So you might as well, like, you're taking on all of the risk, and you may be that in that contract for years, but you're taking on all of the risk, and you're not really getting any real benefit in that sense. So I suppose what I'm saying here is that sometimes people are they're perhaps forced into running their own business, and they're really scrambling. So here's an angle that I would. You said, you want to tweak, you want to find out what you're doing wrong, and so on. Here's an angle that I have been reflecting on a lot lately, both for myself and and for others that I've been speaking to, which is, what can you stop doing? And because, take the example of, I need this many followers on YouTube, for example, because we've all got it in the back of our mind, if I can only go viral.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
And the answer is no, it wouldn't be great. It wouldn't be great. But we're translating number of followers. I'm going to be a big celebrity star, and number of followers of subscribers on YouTube to money in my bank account, and it doesn't necessarily follow at all. Going viral is not even a repeatable process usually, and so really what I suppose what I'm trying to encourage people to do is to start to go for some no's, start to work out, well, where can I step back here? Similar to the sort of thing that we do at New Year, I'm going to be turning off social media. I'm going to be disciplining myself in this respect. I'm not going to be looking at my phone for an hour before I go to bed, or in the first hour when I wake up, or these sort of things. We take on these practices, and the practices are we call them resolutions, and there's a lot of negativity around resolutions. If you're going to write an article about New Year's resolutions, you've got to begin by saying, of course they don't work, here's why they don't work. But when you think about it, the word resolution itself means resolve. We're going to resolve a problem here. So here is one thing that I'm not necessarily even cutting off the whole of the social media platform or something else, but here is one thing, is you say, well, look, if this isn't working, if this direction isn't working, let me not necessarily pivot my entire business, but let me at least focus on one thing, and even turn off something that I just thought, well, it wasn't really doing anything anyway for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm with you on the New Year's resolution thing. Absolutely. I think for me, it was the holiday break was a time to step back, and I actually had an opportunity to think about some things. But so it wasn't really, I'm marking the new year with some change. It was, okay, this was some downtime that I could strategize with. And as far as developing business, I think that's a continual evolution. And the next
Well,
time I have some downtime, I'll be thinking about it again, right?
yeah.
And as far as what will I give up? Well, we've done this experiment on LinkedIn now for several months. I'm not sure when you started on LinkedIn, but for me, it was around April or May last year. And built up a bit of a following, had some pretty good posts take off. Never really converted a lot of business from LinkedIn, but thought there
Mm,
might be some potential there based on
mm.
response. And it never really did happen. And I feel like 7 or 8 months is kind of enough time to test that, right? So
Sure.
then now I'm asking myself, well, okay, what next? And you talk about, well, what can you give up? What can you not do? And I think, it would be easy for me to say, well, LinkedIn's not working, I'm going to abandon it. But are there other purposes for being there, was something I asked myself. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned earlier, well, we've had this terrific opportunity to connect with like-minded people.
Mm,
And you and I wouldn't have met if not for LinkedIn.
mm,
And I can say that about quite a few others as well. And so I don't want to disappear. I want to maintain the relationships I've established with the people who have kind of grown to become people within my circle.
mm,
But I need to think about it differently. It's not going to be a tool for me that generates a lot of business. It's going to be maintain relationships. It's going to be maybe a little bit of brand awareness if I'm lucky. But I'm not looking at it to actually convert sales anymore.
mm. So it's really interesting because your role is primarily career coach, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the leadership and yeah. And so the natural instinct for somebody who's not in that space is for me to say, well, you've got to be on LinkedIn. That's where you're going to get your business, right?
well, that's what
And
I thought. Yeah,
yeah.
initially.
So I'm wondering whether there is looking at an even bigger picture beyond social media, whether there is a bigger, shall we call it a psychological mood in the market. I'm in Australia, as you know, in Sydney, and I just heard today of a very, very big fruit and vegetable company, and they ship internationally, and they're really, really big. From an Italian immigrant from the 1950s came to Australia, and they had in their report, in their annual report, or for the stock market, they just had a line in there saying that avocados were down. The sales of avocados were down,
Yeah.
and that lost them 38% on their share price within a few minutes.
Amazing.
And you think, well, hang on, why? What? Like, are avocados such big sellers? And they are, and the avocado market is growing. But it was as I say, a mood, and I'm not so sensitive to the moods in the economy, and there's going to be a world economic downturn and all of this, because our response is usually to batten down the hatches. Okay. And the whole reason about the avocado is they also found that berries and one other thing, anyway, strawberries or blueberries or something, were also, the sales were down. Perhaps perceived as luxury items in Australia, and that people are just not going to be splurging on those things. Okay, that's discretionary spending, and so that is an indicator of the economy is all going downhill, etc. And of course, that's always in the news. That's always happening. I mean, nobody's going to make headlines by saying, "Look, the economy is looking really good." Okay, it's just not going
Yeah.
to be. You know
No.
that from your media background.
Yeah. I hear you.
But here is my question: is more around the mood, and especially around those small business owners or people thinking of changing their jobs, or people feeling threatened that the whole job market, the stability is gone, security is gone, all of that. Do we do do we challenge that? Do we tap into that? And how, if we do, how do we, how are we sensitive? How do we show empathy, compassion for that, and give people the courage that they need, the encouragement they need, the confidence they need to take the next step, rather than just sitting down and letting their life be dictated by a default, you know, let's just wait till the economy turns around.
Yeah. That's a really good question because, and I just wrote an article recently about, how the future of work looks different, and it seems as though it's amplified locally for me because our market is in a down economy, and so businesses are very much reacting to that down economy, and they seem to be not only restructuring to stop the bleeding, but innovating in many ways to position themselves for the ability to be very nimble as they move forward. And I feel like that's the way we're headed, generally speaking, if, just for many reasons, not the least of which is rapid technological advancement. It happens so quickly that companies need the ability to be able to adapt to market conditions. And so as an employee, somebody who's managing their career, the old formula of stay loyal and work hard
For
and
sure.
be dedicated and have good performance and all of those things, it's not necessarily going to be something you can rely on anymore. You've got to be prepared
No.
to also adapt to the market conditions.
So, so here's one thing that you spoke about: loyalty, and the loyalty has got to be two-way, right? And
Yeah.
and that is not being encouraged at all generally. I do know some exceptions. I do know some businesses that are particularly, I'm not saying carrying dead wood, but they are, on the contrary, they are very happy to hold on to people and to see things through because they're taking a long-term vision. But now there's a whole lot of disruption. There's a whole lot of emotional disruption. Now dad is working from home. There are interruptions from the children, or mum's working from home, or there's been, family breakups or pressures or mental health issues or other health issues or other financial issues. There's been some sort of disruption in people's lives, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing this all the time. And and people naturally feel vulnerable. Of course they do. Of course they're looking for stability. They're looking for some sort of security. But here is where I'm going to encourage a kind of a pivot. The word that you used was innovation, and that whole adaptability, that flexibility. Not simply to, oh, well, I've got to develop some more technical skills and just to keep up because, the world of work is running away from me. But more this whole idea, particularly around what we conventionally call the people skills, is that when people feel very disengaged, they feel that they are cut off, they feel that they are alienated, particularly by social media, I don't mean by trolls or by anything like that. I mean simply the fact that I've got to keep up. Just hang on a moment, Rob. I've just got to take somebody has just tweeted something. Only joking. So, and so I'll get back to you. I'm speaking to somebody more important. So just that constant tension, that constant feeling of overwhelm, of interruption, and I'm missing out, that fear of missing out, the FOMO, that the whole world of distraction is, that itself is obviously, making people live their lives in a whole way where they're not talking to you. Rob, I'll just be back in a moment. Viewers, just talk among yourselves. I'm just gonna check this email. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Oh, great. Oh, kangaroos can't hop backwards. There we go. Okay, so
I didn't know that.
so here's my point: is that if you are bobbing up and down in the ocean, you do have to have some sort of anchor. Where is it? You can't anchor yourself to the big stable job in Big Corp anymore.
Yeah.
So how do you learn to dance in the rain rather than complain about the rain, right? How do you learn to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's possible, right? But it requires a shift in mindset and
Right?
it's a mindset that has been entrenched in us for generations. So it's not going to be an easy shift. Uh,
Sure, because
but
we're so addicted to the paycheck.
we
And then we wait till we hit retirement age, which is getting pushed up in a few countries anyway, because the expectation is we're working in a 9 to 5 job. What a joke! And that we get our weekends to ourselves, and then we retire. We have some, what do you call it, 401k. In Australia, we call it superannuation, but basically retirement fund,
pension plan, retire, yeah,
pension plan of some.
RSP in Canada, yeah.
And then life has just passed us by. It's just been a series of interruptions and notifications and distractions and like I suppose I'm getting very, very philosophical here, but it is there is a different approach, and I think you and I have embraced it, or are embracing it. What is it? What am I talking about? I'm putting you
Well,
on this because I haven't told you, but
I think it's what's meaningful and what's purposeful, and what is what are we doing that's making use of our strengths and yet benefiting somebody, right? We're people helpers,
yeah,
and we know we're good at what we do. We just need other people to know that.
yeah, that's right. And yeah, look, that's pretty much it. It's been very interesting for me to find. Well, what I try to do is create some sort of environment, and I think we all try and do this, where people feel that they can talk, feel that they can open up a little bit, and and then when they do that, you're sensitive to it. Okay, you realize, hang on, wait, hey, you look very nervous here, you look very cautious, you look a little bit not confident here. Why? What's going on? Or what's behind that? What when they change the topic? Like, well, you're just being a little bit more sensitive to a situation, and then they might confide in you. Look, actually, and they'll share with you a particular problem or pain that they're facing. It might be even a personal one, an emotional one, or in their business, or something in their family life, or something like that. And then somehow feeling that, but I can't share that with anybody because, I've got to put on the nice mask, the social media, the successful business, things are going great. Look how many followers I've got. And, it's a wonderful, like the world is wonderful. And just being able to pull back the curtain a little bit, being able to be more authentic. And I don't mean necessarily in a really, personal way, revealing private things that you don't feel that you want to reveal. But I just think that sometimes being able to dig back a little bit, dig down into what's behind somebody's decisions on their career or their business or something, it can be really, really helpful, very liberating, actually.
Yeah, agree. Well, I think that's what we're sort of doing here, right? Pulling back the curtain a little bit, because
Yeah, exactly.
these kinds of conversations are not things that people see happening on LinkedIn or on Facebook. I know.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I produce video, and I put together some pretty sort of high end productions sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
And so it's different than these casual conversations. People get a different impression, and frankly, it's very easy to paint yourself as looking pretty good, you know,
Yeah.
when you do some of that production work. So this is the other side, right? This is the, hey, I'm a real person. I have a business. I like to help people. Am I making millions of dollars? No. You know, I have to
Yeah.
work like everybody else to make
Yeah.
the business work.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I was speaking to a business owner uh, recently, and I won't say what line of business he's in. I don't want to identify him, but anyway, he was getting some traction on LinkedIn, including some paying clients, and it's they're high paying clients. You know, certainly six figure clients,
Yeah.
and he's also active on Twitter. And I said, like, how's that working? And what he pointed out to me was that Twitter was not actually getting him clients, but it was getting him, not directly, but it was getting him awareness. And that after people had seen him for 2 or 3 months on Twitter, that was enough to kind of make them reach out to him even through LinkedIn. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think also just the whole high production quality, the expectations that we have, especially with YouTube videos. LinkedIn is not like that. And those people who, because LinkedIn and video is just so embryonic at the moment. It's in such an early stage. It's not even a year old, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty new.
And so that's why, you know, people like me, I can get some traction on LinkedIn with my videos that I could never do with you know, on some other platforms, because, you know, it's very primitive. It doesn't take much to shine, I think. But the expectation is, well, we've got to do these flash, we've got to do the intro, we've got to do the outro, we've got to have a chop every 30 seconds because, hey, nobody's going to watch that. And I'm going to throw up a challenge to you. In fact, I'm going to just share with the viewers now, or viewer. At least your mum is going to watch this, hopefully. And so,
won't be my mom, but maybe my wife.
okay, all right. Well, we'll say hello to our viewer.
Sure.
So I'm just going to throw out a challenge that we actually post this video, and I'm thinking on YouTube, it's going to be too long for LinkedIn, that we post it without any editing.
Yeah, let's try it. Right, let's throw it up.
We still have to do a decent thumbnail, and then, you know, that may be around pulling back the curtain or some honesty in business. You know, like
why not, right? Like, it's a conversation like this is, to me, it's a conversation that if you were doing it around a table, somebody else might feel comfortable joining. And that's kind of the impression we want to give people. We are, as I said, we're real people. You know, I like to think that we're approachable.
Yeah.
Well,
Here is something really. Even though people share vulnerability on LinkedIn, they tend to do it in personal vulnerability. You know, they've had anxiety over this, or these are the challenges, and that's fine. And it's a good thing, I suppose, that they can do that and feel that encouragement. But I don't really see it so much in the business vulnerability. You know, I'm not going to take you down that path now, but I just want to share with the viewer one thing which is how we started this conversation. The plan this conversation today, the plan was that we were going to record a 10-minute video on a particular topic, maybe have a bit of a chin wag, as we call it in Australia. You wag your chin as you talk. And although we don't actually in summer, we tend to mumble a lot like this so that we don't get the flies in our mouth.
So it's seasonal.
It's seasonal, a seasonal chin wag. And so, but what I was thinking, what I wanted to share was that although the plan was for you and me, Rob, was to say, why don't we talk about this? You talk about your business as a career coach. I'll talk about mine in more as a business coach, which is a bit of a vague and, commoditized term, but that's what I'm using at the moment. And and then as we started chatting, what did you say to me? We were chatting about what we were going to talk about. What did you say?
What, an hour ago, or?
Yeah, when we first started, what did you say? You
I
said you
don't.
wanted to hit a button. What was it?
Oh, hit the record button. What? Yeah,
Yeah,
hit the record button, of course.
that's right. And so we really haven't mapped out any. I mean, we've been all over the place. That's my fault. We started off on why is LinkedIn not working, and then and then we went through. Well, is it time for us to jump ship? Is it? Well, no, maybe we don't have to do that. Should we be on a different platform? Should we go to YouTube or Instagram? And then we started speaking more philosophically, reflectively about our business in general, strategically, and our business and our lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's, who knows? This might be the video that goes viral, and then we might actually make those. You never know.
You never know. You never know. But I'm right with you. Sometimes these casual conversations have the highest value. And when you can do it like this and you feel relaxed, you're more apt to, I think, bring up some of these topics that you might not otherwise if you had it planned out.
Yeah.
So let's see where it goes.
Okay. No, look, it sounds good. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of ground, and yeah. Let's see. If we get one like, then we'll do it again.
Okay.
So 2 likes, one from your wife because she's got to do it. She's got to like it.
That's right. That's right.
We get a second one. We'll do it again.
Sure. That'll be the metric. Sounds good.